Well, we finally made it. We've arrived at the current generation of consoles. If you watched part 1 of this on the Jord channel, I want to say congratulations for making it this far. It only gets worse. In this part 2, Drew and I will discuss the current generations of consoles as well as the foreseeable future. Now, okay, I'm going to begin my PlayStation 5 section just with a little music analogy here. So PlayStation is essentially on its 5th studio album, right? We've had the revolutionary Breakout album. We've had the arguably best second album, the fall off with the 3rd album, and eventually the comeback with the PlayStation 4. Now, what is the PlayStation 5 album about? I don't know, it was always sold out. Yes, I was one of Sony's many casualties during the 2020 launch title period of the PlayStation 5. So ever since the PlayStation 3, reselling had gotten like abysmally bad, right? Even worse if you were broke, and even worse if there's a global chip shortage going on. The PS5 costed $499 if you wanted one that could insert discs, and $399 if you wanted one that could not play any physical media. Honestly, when I first saw this, I was taken aback. I never thought Sony would abandon their precious compact discs. I just remember never having the money when this console came out, but it didn't even matter because it was never in stock.
And such is the popularity of the PS5, Sony has struggled to keep up with demand. The firm blamed a chip shortage that has hurt businesses ranging from car companies to smartphone makers.
I remember my friend getting a PlayStation 5 because he knew somebody like behind closed doors at Walmart that could get it to him before they put it out on shelves, which means I was a victim of scalping. Now, I was aware of scalping. I collect Jordans, and I also have just opened Ticketmaster before. It's just saddening to see the hands of scalping reach my video game consoles now. I ended up never getting a PlayStation 5, but my brother did off of Facebook Marketplace for like $200, and it still somehow worked fine. And seeing it in person, I thought this console actually looked kind of cool. It was taking some stylistic retro approach. Instead of this boring slim black slab like everything was nowadays, it was actually something different. It just contrasted a little bit with my grandma's floral themed living room. Despite this shaky launch, the people that did manage to get their hands on the PlayStation 5 said it was good.
I guess as Flossie Carter would say, the PS5 is a major go if you can get your hands on it, right? It's basically a computer that's guaranteed, hopefully, to have a long life cycle and to improve over time as the game library grows, and that's something we got to keep an eye on and trust developers to do, but I think it's happening.
And apparently the DualSense controllers had been insanely upgraded.
And haptic feedback is one of the ways this new controller will try to make PS5 games more immersive. Sony says this feedback will add, quote, a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of driving a car through mud.
I remember beating Spider-Man PS4 and just seeing like a trailer for the Miles Morales version on the PS5 and having them advertise that haptic feedback and feeling the tension of the swing. And then I finally got to actually try it on my brother's console, and I was like, yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's like a little harder to press down on a button. Although this was one of Sony's biggest launches in PlayStation and just console history, I think it made a lot of people have a disdain for the console industry.
I just want one game. I don't know why. I bought a PS5 with no games to buy.
It took 3 years for the PlayStation 5 stock to become readily available to the public. The newer models were $50 more expensive than the original and would also come with a $79 attachment to be able to play CDs. From once pioneering the entire gaming industry to these compact discs to just abandoning physical media entirely. Unless you want the $80 attachment. The PS5 Pro was even worse at $699.
Mamma mia!
This guy from Sports Illustrated, which I don't really know why they're talking about video games, quotes, "It feels almost cruel in a climate like this to try and convince people that the PS5 Pro, with its meager enhancements, is actually worth the money." From growing up and feeling like this console had actual spirit to it, to now being a broke college kid and I feel like I got kicked to the curb. People with more money than me could pay to get the console faster than me, so why would I bother? One can only ask, what is next for the PlayStation, and would I even be able to afford to care?
Wow, what an incredibly dog shit name. I have to take a moment to talk about this. At this point, Microsoft decided randomly that, hey, we should do a simple naming system like the PlayStation. So now all consoles that come out from Microsoft will essentially be just the Xbox with a different sub name like Series S or X. A little late to make that shift, in my opinion. They really should have thrown it all to the wayside and been like, fuck it, Xbox 720.
Something's got to give. Two, something's got to give. Three, something's got to give.
It feels like Microsoft came away from the ass whooping they received last generation, just licking their wounds.
And again, Killer Instinct coming out later this year, exclusively for the Xbox One. We have a great partnership with Microsoft and with Double. Yo, yo, yo!
Their main focus for this next generation was that it would be this soft, seamless transition into the new era. But I think that ultimately backfired because it made people feel like this really wasn't much of an upgrade to the Xbox One. While all Xbox One games were immediately playable on the SX, there were no new launch titles. Believe it or fucking not, Halo Infinite was set to release with the Xbox in November of 2020, but obviously COVID kind of majorly fucked that up. So that meant that when the SX eventually debuted, it genuinely had like no new games on it. Like seriously, no new gen exclusives. Like not one. Nada. This did not feel like the next step for gaming. And by this point, the advancements between generations were starting to feel really trivial. The jump from the Xbox to the Xbox 360 was genuinely massive. The experience evolved in tangible ways that the audience could see, feel, and notice. The jump from the Xbox One to the SX is genuinely fucking pitiful. Other than these barely noticeable upgrades and specs, the Xbox Series X, I don't need to say the Xbox Series SX. This is a fucking dog shit name. It's exactly why it's bad. Other than these barely noticeable upgrades and specs, the SX was essentially the same console as the One. It had the same menus, the same controller essentially, the same games since there was nothing new readily available. The only reason you would buy an SX is because you had a raging boner for 4K resolution.
Monster Hunter World, for example, here does not run smoothly on the Xbox One X. The difference between them side by side in terms of image quality, I wouldn't say is that big. Do we have variable refresh rate enabled on here?
As my good friend Jord mentioned, there was a massive shortage of chips at the time, and this led to the worst era of scalping. The rate at which these consoles would be bought up and then relisted at some absurd price was nuts. The main appeal for the Xbox was the Game Pass, and I think they kind of know that now because since it has only expanded. Bethesda, EA, Activision, these companies have all struck deals with Microsoft to be featured on the Xbox Game Pass. That's a lot of fucking games, and I'm not going to deny how vast that library is and how many experiences it's let me enjoy. But this was the era for me where I really started to question why I was loyal to the Xbox. This felt like the first time I could just objectively see that the PlayStation was outdoing my childhood bestie in every way. While everyone is playing fucking God of War and The Last of Us Part 2, and damn it, yes, Ratchet and Clank, I'm sitting over here playing Fallout New Vegas, a game that came out 10 years ago.
Could you maybe stay away from me? You're creeping me out.
I love New Vegas, no disrespect intended, but god damn it, I wanted to feel like the money I spent was actually worth it. It was the first time I got a console out of pure necessity and not out of excitement. I bought the Series S because I genuinely just wanted to play 2K23 with my brothers. It's almost as if Microsoft truly reverted back to selling at-home computers. Where is the excitement, the zany out there mentality of the first Xbox that truly focused on the gaming experience? Where is the innovation and gorgeous aesthetics of the 360? Microsoft has instead settled into this zone where they can maximize profits and minimize risk.
There's so many things that are working for us right now. And our jobs inside the company is to run a good business. We're accountable to Microsoft for running a good business, a healthy business that continues to grow at both top line and bottom line. That's kind of a foundation for us. It does mean we have to make trade-offs through the year on things that we're going to invest more in, things that we're not going to invest as much in, because it is kind of, we are the business that we are, but the business is having really good success. I even think to the last quarter, and some of the stats that Satya Nadella, my boss, the CEO of Microsoft, Amy Hood, the CFO, went through, talking about how the business is growing. And I'm just really proud of the scale of the Xbox business right now. It's obviously never been as big as it is now, and how it's really delivering for our players, our creators, and the company.
It feels like Microsoft achieved their original goal. Their fears of the PlayStation eliminating the market for at-home computers was probably a little over the top. I mean, shit, I'm writing this on an at-home computer right now, a MacBook. So I guess maybe Bill Gates should have killed Steve Jobs or something. Or maybe he did. We don't know. For sure. They certainly cornered their own section of the market that would have been otherwise completely dominated by Sony. So now they sit there content on their mountain of cash and dead 360s, watching as customers move passively from generation to generation, all to buy another shitty named, shitty looking console. So, where does this leave us? We are 5 years into both consoles' lifespans, and it's been relatively uneventful. Microsoft is trying to own every game company ever for the ultimate Game Pass, and the PlayStation 5 is still working on trying to have games to play. The biggest recent news is that Microsoft has entered the handheld scene with their ROG Xbox Ally X. God. ROG Xbox Ally X. Like, I don't know if you could make it more confusing. Also, we get it. The Xbox has an X. We don't need to name it the Xbox Ally X. That's fucking stupid. And if you're wondering where the ROG part comes from, that's because this was developed in hand with an organization known as the Republic of Gamers. So maybe the Xbox is actually awesome. The Ally is a Xbox handheld, but also has more games than an actual Xbox console because it has access to Steam and Epic storefronts. Would be cool if the Xbox could do that, but okay. And you get all of that for the small price of $900. Or you can get the worse, smaller version for a measly $550. Microsoft has options for all types of consumers, from high class to upper middle class. Oh, and you can't play Xbox console games on your Xbox handheld because apparently it's actually a Windows device that just has Xbox PC Game Pass on it. So because of that, you can't play Xbox mainline console games and you can't transfer your pre-existing library over. Why? Microsoft's plans for the next generation are kind of out there.
I am thrilled to share we've established a strategic multi-year partnership with AMD to co-engineer silicon across a portfolio of devices, including our next generation Xbox consoles, to deliver the next generation of graphics innovation, to unlock a deeper level of visual quality, and immersive gameplay and player experiences, enhanced with the power of AI.
There's rumors that they would work in hand with other PC companies like Lenovo or HP to develop third-party versions of the Xbox console. Essentially, if this happens, they need to majorly upgrade their console hardware. Because if you can play Xbox games from a myriad of devices, why would you buy another expensive-ass, boring, ugly Xbox? In a way, this feels like Microsoft's last stand. If this next generation fails to capture an audience, it could very well lead to the discontinuation of the Xbox console entirely. Or not. Probably not.
You doing all right there?
Just fine.
Sun's getting real low, big fella.
I'm tired of your shit. Why don't you just press down R2 already?
I'm waiting on you to pull that right trigger first, bucko. So the future of PlayStation is pretty unclear. All we know is that a console is coming? During an interview, Hideaki Nishino, the current CEO of Sony, has said, "While we cannot share further details at this stage, the future of the platform is top of mind. We are committed to exploring a new and enhanced way for players to engage with our content and our services." Basically, it's the most business non-statement ever. Sony also seems like they're going to lay off the discless console variants and go back to their spiritual roots of the compact discs, the very thing that gave them a competitive edge in the market. Cloud gaming is increasingly providing an additional option for players to access content, but our belief is the majority of players continue to want a play experience, the gaming through a local execution, without dependency on network conditions. PS5 and PS5 Pro have validated this thesis, I believe. Oh, thank God for this observation, dude. I think this is the perfect way to move forward. Like, being able to afford a console is already a very privileged thing to do. To have it only be able to operate while on the internet adds yet another barrier to an experience that so many don't get to have. Thank you, company, for not doing something evil. Now, is the next console going to be the PlayStation 6? I actually don't know. Just like how Xbox is going completely handheld, the PlayStation seems to be doing the same thing. However, there's also rumors that Sony will be releasing the PlayStation 6 alongside a handheld. Let's hope they have the capacity to handle that. It seems after the likes of the Steam Deck, old cherished PlayStation projects, and the Switch, handhelds are now becoming a new trend in the console wars. Nevertheless, we won't see any of these new consoles from Sony, most likely for the next couple years. For now though, we have the PS5 and its 2 games.
The current state of Xbox is dire. While they've made big acquisitions like Bethesda, they aren't exactly inspiring confidence after their recent slate of games.
I asked our audience, what would you ask Todd? Big question from many. Why did you not optimize this game for PC?
We did. It's running great. It is a next-gen PC game. We really do push the technology, so you may need to upgrade your PC for this game, but it's got a lot of great stuff going on in it, and the fans are responding awesome.
My honest thoughts are that the Xbox Game Pass is the only thing keeping the brand alive, and even that is massively disappointing. The library is huge, but it's got more Crackdown 3s than Fallout New Vegas's, if you get what I'm saying. I believe Peggle is on there. Did you know that? Peggle is on Game Pass. Despite all of that, that's not even mentioning the fact that now that crossplay is starting to become more mainstream, it's made this all feel really fucking pointless. Like, really, what was it for? Why all the competition? Why all the exclusivity? Why lock so many experiences behind expensive paywalls? Why make it so hard for people to share and play games together? Why? If it was going to lead to the shittiest outcome for everybody, and so many of these franchises would eventually allow for crossplay anyways, did we do any of this?
Why don't we just put our controllers down, Drew? Why don't we just put him down and we talk?
I can't, man! I can't!
Drew, yes you can!
You know, I always wanted to play Ratchet & Clank. In my deepest of gamer dreams, I see a graveyard in the distance. I walk over to this graveyard with no entrance or exit, with no name or location, and I look into its vast pavilion. I see 4 headstones: free online play, community, aesthetics, people's money.
Online gaming, as in your console just actively being connected to the internet, has been around since the Atari 2600. But throughout the 90s, a number of consoles were surprisingly made with online play. The Famicom gave you access to weather reports, game cheats, game cheats, weather reports, and even the stocks for some reason. And then there was the Sega Network system that essentially just allowed you to send emails through your Sega Genesis.
Play games, surf the net, only on Sega Saturn.
And even some games actually allowed you online multiplayer. Multiplayer gaming never really blew up in the 80s and 90s due to how inaccessible it was. The Sega Network modem costed an extra $100 when you could just play locally with your friend with your extra controller for free. And it's not like you had online friends. Who? AOL? Aside from a few made accessories, it wasn't until the PlayStation 2 Slim model that an Ethernet cord was actually able to plug into the console, no accessories required. And then of course the Xbox came out with Xbox Live.
Dude,
They can hear me, and I can hear them.
There was Xbox Live Free and Xbox Silver, and eventually they just made Xbox Live. Xbox continues to offer Xbox Live to consumers till this day. However, nowadays it does include that dastardly son of a bitch cloud gaming. But honestly, I think it works for a subscription-based service. If you're paying for online play, you're going to need to be connected to the internet to be able to play those games, meaning you inherently already have access to the internet. So to allow the Game Pass for those to access games they may have never been able to play adds another actual great feature to Xbox Live. But back in my day, man, it was just an extra internet bill. PlayStation Network wasn't officially named the PlayStation Network until the PS3, while the PlayStation 2 ran through third-party servers. After the PS3, Sony finally held full responsibility for all of their online. PlayStation Plus was made in addition to the PlayStation Network, a paid subscription that gives you the ability to play online games. It remains the same way till this day, as in PlayStation Network is free, but you need PS Plus to access online gaming. So I'm not an expert in this. I understand that if you don't want to outsource your online service to cheap third parties, you probably may need to charge a service fee for it. But it still fucking sucks! I'm already paying one infinite internet bill, now I'm paying another infinite internet bill. The console wars in creating a huge divide in these three main contenders also gave all three of them an excuse to introduce never-ending subscription services. They all three basically said, wait, he's making money off of that? I want to make money off of that. I understand why these companies have to charge for online play. However, they also created a divided market that only hurts the consumer and helps them. But at least you can play NES games on your Switch now. So after a few $1 million in subscription-based revenue, you'd think that these consoles would be able to develop a way for crossplay to finally be introduced into the mainstream appeals of gaming. No. I sat there arguing with my friends whether the PlayStation or Xbox was better when we both purchased Grand Theft Auto 5, both have an internet bill, both have a subscription-based online service, and we still couldn't play together.
Gaming has its origins in community. Since Tennis for Two in 1958, gaming has involved people sharing an experience together, playing together. Through the course of the console wars, gaming has become a more and more isolated experience. The days of playing Halo with a quad split screen are long gone. Nowadays, it almost always requires you to have your own console with your own online service and your own version of the game. Yes, crossplay is starting to become more standard, but it straight up sucked balls that to be able to play with your friends, you had to be all on the same console. It made gaming an experience that should bring people together very divisive, because you had to pick a side and then try and pull all your buddies to that side with you just so you could play together. Why was I genuinely arguing with people to get the Xbox One and doing my damnedest to diminish the PS4? I don't entirely blame the console wars for why gaming has become so exclusionary and expensive, but I kinda do. What was once a great competition between what seemed to be genuine rivals has now turned into some weak semblance of collusion. There is no true advantage to being a Switch user or a PlayStation user or an Xbox user. They all relatively cost the same and come with their own online service. All of them have their own set of exclusive games worth checking out. For the longest time, I understood the console wars as a battle between these companies for the best gaming experience possible. I now understand that these console wars were a direct attack from corporations to the consumer using exclusivity. As long as games are locked behind consoles, you will ultimately have to fess up your cash if you want to play certain exclusives. In a way, it's a system that rewards all three companies for total stagnation and gives them complete control over the customer. None of them necessarily need to majorly outperform the other because they all have their own corner of the market due to their exclusives. I feel like that's most clear when you take a look at the aesthetics of these companies over time. Where they all started with stark visual differences, they've all kind of slowly merged into this samey corporate minimalist look. Like, guys, why do these just not have any personality anymore? I mean, The Switch home screen is depressing. The PlayStation home screen is supposed to hypnotize you so you never leave. The Xbox home screen is an advertising page. We have seen the console wars turn our toys for fun into sleek machines for the best, most epic gaming experience.
I don't buy next-gen consoles. I don't pay for online play. I play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on my Nintendo Switch against the CPUs, and that's it. The console wars have made me tired. I am not built for this modern gaming experience. Here's the thing, some of the best games I've ever played do exist due to console exclusivity. If you specifically engineer a game to squeeze every ounce of performance out of one single system, of course it's going to shine. And of course you can't program the game to work on a different console without it costing millions of dollars. Unless you're Minecraft, they can make that shit run on anything. But it still doesn't make it fair. In an already divided, flooded market, exclusivity builds another brick in that wall between players and the games they want to play. You want to play Spider-Man, Breath of the Wild, and Halo? That's 3 different ecosystems, 3 different price tags, and 3 different controllers on your goddamn coffee table. You know, I'm glad I have my friend back. The console wars has reduced me to a mere casual gamer. With the release of the Switch 2, I now officially do not own a current generation of console. And I'm not even sure if I want to. Like, I know game prices were always expensive. Sure, these companies were always on some bullshit, right? But the thing is, we used to fight back. The PlayStation 3 had a terrible launch price, and you know what we did? We bullied them to making it $300. Nowadays, I feel like it's like, oh, Breath of the Wild, which came out on the Wii U 8 years ago, is still $70 on the Switch 2. Okay, yes, Mr. Nintendo, whatever you say, sir.
Where do we go from here? Surely we can't keep rewarding these companies with our entire paychecks, but I'm getting a little tired of Bloons Tower Defense on my Mac. Jordan and I play more on our MacBooks and couch play games on the Switch than we do anything else. As we look forward to the future, I don't even think either of us plan on getting the next generation of consoles. After how disappointing last generation was, I refuse to invest my money into another console that will eventually be replaced anyways. The irony of these consoles becoming more digital is that there's arguably less value to holding onto your console than ever. Keeping your GameCube or Wii or your Xbox 360 or your PlayStation 2 made sense. Each of those consoles had a distinct identity with their own set of games that may not have been immediately playable on the next generation. What reason would I have to hold on to my Xbox Series S after I stop using it? Genuinely, I have no attachment to this boring offshoot of the Xbox One. You hit P! It has no identity, it's a tool for gaming. So even if the next generation is awesome, it'll eventually be made completely redundant when the generation after that comes out because there's no identity worth returning to. I have decided that I must end this, that we must end this. We can break this cycle. I am walking away from the console wars and refusing to pick up the fight for Xbox. It is time I put my money where my mouth is. I am walking away from the battlefield.
Oh, sorry, man. Wait, Drew? I haven't seen you since...
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, you doing good?
Yeah, you?
Doing my best.
Well, I'll see you around.
Wait, where are you going?
Oh, I was just gonna run by Best Buy, grab me a PS6.
Nice.
What about you?
I was actually going to Walmart to get my Lenovo Xbox to pair with my ROG Xbox Ally X.
Nice. I was going to buy drugs.
Whoa.
Hey man, at least we don't need a monthly subscription for drugs.
Or a headset.
Exactly. We're doing just fine without those consoles. Now, let's go buy some drugs. Something that'll always be good for us.